Well, I don't have as much time, so I'm actually going to just share a little bit about my story, and then I'm going to let you guys ask questions, because I always find I like to kind of let the individual, you guys come here for a reason, you have questions on your mind, and I want to answer that. Well, the first question I'm going to ask is raise your hand if you have just a high school degree, no college or university degree. Amazing. So I joined your company because, so I graduated high school with a C- grade. If I remember high school, it was mostly about socializing. It was mostly about having fun. I remember one time in particular just being super disenchanted with school. I just remember thinking that tests were ridiculous, all this memorization made no sense. I would do sort of out-of-the-box responses to different projects, and I would still end up getting like a failing grade. But the smarty pants over here who answered all the questions, they got A's and I didn't. So I remember thinking, you know what, this isn't going to be for me. I don't think I'm academic. I was the first person in my family to graduate high school, and really, it wasn't something that inspired me, but I loved entrepreneurship. My entire family was entrepreneurial, my siblings, everybody. And so I guess I subconsciously knew that entrepreneurship was going to be my thing. And so when I graduated high school, my best friend, he and I were best friends in high school for 5 years. We had our lockers beside each other. And he called me up one day, and he was in the States, and he tried to get a cell phone, and he couldn't. And he's like, I don't understand why. And they said, well, your credit report's terrible. And he said, what's that? And they're like, well, it's like a report card for adults. And he's like, okay. And they're like, well, if you want to get a cell phone, you got to check your credit report. So he goes online. And when he gets there, he realizes that it says, enter in your state and you can get it delivered. So obviously you can't do that in Canada. So he called me up one day and just said, listen, I have this idea to bring credit reports online. And I said, what's that? And he said, it's a report card for adults. And I said, okay. And really what it came down to was I wanted to continue to do projects with him like we did in high school. And I really didn't care what the vehicle was. It was mostly, I just want to do something with you. And so we ventured off, and we started our first company. It was about 1.5 years out of high school. And we started iQuery. iQuery, we brought to Canada the ability to bring credit reports online. And it was very unique. It was highly regulated. We found a hack. There's a clue. We found the hack. We found a way in, and we were able to deliver credit reports online. We built that company, sold it in 3 years. And then we shook hands and said, well, that was great. We'll see you later. And then the next thing we knew, we were being approached again, this time by the company that acquired us. They said, we can't get into Canada. There's a bureau in Canada that they have a license to do credit reporting, and we can't get in there. And so we said, we can orchestrate that. So our second company was the orchestration of that business's business. And then we, in that piece, sold a marketing distribution channel that we worked with them. Again, completely out of nowhere. We were flying by the seat of our pants, trying something new, and we kind of slipped into it. 3 years later, our company was acquired again by the same company. After that, we shook hands, and then once again, we found ourselves being approached by another organization. So the key that I want to say here is that for us, we never marketed, we never came up. Actually, the opportunities approached us, but that was because we found ourselves in a very unique niche. We found our space, and we went into it, and we basically monopolized it. So people knew that if you wanted to get into the credit industry, you needed to talk to Stephen and Tanis. So then a company out of Europe reached out to us. They said, we need to get identity verification insurance products into the Canadian and Australian market. We were able to facilitate that. Business took 3 years, and then they acquired us. So again, that was another piece of it where we realized that if you can really take advantage of your market, what it is you know about, you will start to find opportunities. So the serial entrepreneur in us decided that maybe we would do one more kick at the can. Stephen decided, I had just started a family, that was 10 years of our lives, started a family. And then Stephen said, you know what, I want to experience Silicon Valley, and I want to do an idea. So we decided for the first time that we would head down and we would maybe raise money. And it was funny because it was an idea that we had. We didn't really know much about it. It took about 6 months, and then Stephen called me and said, yeah, it seems to be something that they do down here in Silicon Valley. They raise money, we should look into that. So we did. It took 1.5 years from our very first pitch before we got our first check. So I always find it fascinating when I speak to under founders is that this idea that you have to continually get rejections, it seems to be the norm. So you need to prepare for that and understand that it isn't going to happen. Don't get discouraged. It's the people that continue all the way through are the ones who eventually get it. So we raised our first round, raised the money down in the Valley, and then we came and we brought those funds up here to Canada. We took advantage of IRAP. We took advantage of Shred, and we took advantage of a much cheaper place to build a business at the time. And so we started to build the business. We grew. We actually never had a product until we raised our Series A. For the first 2 rounds that we ever did, we just had a PowerPoint. So one of the things that I often explain about that is it isn't always about your idea, it's about the founders. So what investors are gonna wanna know is why you? Why are you the one who can take it there? We had a track record, but everybody has a reason why you are the one, and investors are gonna wanna know that. The main thing they always wanted to know as well is who are your references? Who can you bring to the table to show you that you're amazing? Probably the biggest factor that helped us raise our first round as well was our board of advisors. So I always, when I'm advising startup founders, I always tell them, get your board of advisors together very early, because they are going to be the ones that you will turn to show accountability and to show reputability, saying that these people can vouch for what we're doing, and therefore, you need to invest in us. It isn't always about us. It's about who you can bring to the table. So we brought the head of identity to Google. From Google onto our board, we had the head of identity from Washington come on our board. We really strategically spent probably about 6 to 8 months of our time early on, strategically identifying who would be the people who would stand in the gap for us and say to investors, these people know what they're talking about. Because otherwise investors just have to trust you. So you really want to lean on these people who can do that. So really briefly, I just did a couple slides. I called it the alternative degree. So for those 4 of us who don't, but it's actually for everybody. What are the 3 things that you really need to do a degree in? You need a degree in curiosity. So curiosity was the #1 thing. We kept following the rabbit hole down. Well, what is it, why can't you get credit reports online? What is the regulatory environment? Follow your business down until you get to the question that solves the problem. It's actually kind of simple. So just finding that, being curious, why is this happening? And just asking those questions. The second one is obviously just being creative. We're in a time now of AI. AI is going to have a whole bunch of factors that help you build your business, but in the end, it's about us understanding and knowing our market, seeing opportunity and being able to identify it and go after those goals in a very unique way. And then lastly, have confidence. We were from the School of Hard Knocks. People asked us all the time, oh, where did you go to school or university? And we said, well, we went to Holy Cross High School, actually. And it would blow people's minds. Sometimes people just couldn't even comprehend it. But in the end, it's about confidence in your business, confidence in your product, confidence in everything that you're doing. That is what people will buy into. That's what your employees will buy into. That is what your suppliers will buy into, your investors, and all of it. So just having that confidence, building that confidence. When someone asks you, hey, does anybody want to stand up and share something? Be the first to stand up and share something. That's practice. This is like a practice round for your life. So when someone gives you a platform, take it immediately, because that's how you build confidence here, and then you can build it easier in the investors' boardroom. So once so Trulioo went on to raise in 2021, we raised a Series D round. It hit unicorn status that year. It was very exciting. It was it was a surreal time because it's kind of your opportunity to see your baby grow. Both Stephen and I left the day-to-day. We were still on the board, but we exited right at that point. And so now Trulioo grows and does its own thing. We're the parents that sit back and watch it grow on the other side. But as an entrepreneur, this is something that you're constantly going to do. You're constantly going to build businesses. And so currently now I advise startup founders, specifically in the co-founder partnership. I would get asked often, how have you built 4 companies with the same person over 25 years and you haven't killed each other? That's basically the question that I would get asked. And I reflected on it and I wondered, oh, is that really an issue? So one day I Googled it, and this was the Google search. I entered my business partner is. I'm literally, you can do this. This is literally what the responses that you get. And I went, yeah. And this is literally a screenshot. I went, okay, this is a problem. So for many of you, you're going to be starting businesses. You're going to probably find a co-founder. And what I like to tell everyone is that 65% of business partnerships are going to fail because of issues between the founders. This isn't about your revenues. This isn't about your great product. It isn't about your ability to raise funds. It's really going to be about how you and that person or people together as the foundation of the business, how you will work together through all stages of your business. And so to me now, my main goal is to help people, founders, determine what they should look for in a co-founder, how do you have a strong partnership, and then eventually, how do you exit? Because no matter what, you will exit your partnership. Hopefully you'll exit in an IPO or a sale or something really, really good, but sometimes you won't. And you got to prepare for all of those situations that can arise as a co-founder. But ultimately, I do find that most people who start a business, if they exit it, they jump back into it again. So as you're taking this journey, learn those lessons, write those lessons down, because you'll need them again, believe it or not. Entrepreneurs are always entrepreneurs. So that's my piece. I'm here for any questions on whatever side you guys want to ask. Yes?
When you got the head of identity at Google to be on the board, isn't that considered like a conflict of interest?
No, so that was an interesting one. So we would attend identity conferences all across America and across Europe. And Andrew Nash was the head of identity at the time. And he would actually stand up and say what they're trying to do is never going to work. And so it was our mission to actually change his opinion. And so we specifically went after him and we said, listen, we need you to understand what we're doing, because we were disrupting identity. We were the first ones to take a cyber footprint and turn that into data to be able to verify people. And he said he was like our biggest obstacle that we could get, until one day he left Google and became our CTO. So that was our big key. We got him as our CTO and our board member. So again, board of advisors become really reputable when that situation happens. So. Yes.
Yeah, I recently left my company 20 days ago.
Congratulations.
I was the CTO.
Okay.
I built it for 4 years.
Yeah.
Still trekking along. They're doing their thing. They're growing it. 4 years is a long time. I started the company in my last week of university.
Okay.
So this is the first time, the last 20 days, the first time I've had a break since before university.
Awesome.
I don't know what I'm supposed to do with my life now. I'm trying to figure it out. And build multiple companies. So my question to you is, when you exited your first company, how did you reflect on your life, and what did you think about what you wanted to do for that second company?
Yeah. So for us, we were in an industry that was very incestuous, very niche, very small. So the word kind of went out, hey, if you need them, this is the case. But when I talk to people who are looking at their second, third, or fourth business, again, it comes down to, so I'll say this. When we started Trulioo, our goal was never to say identity again. That was our goal. It started off as like a way to somewhat verify people in a dating situation. We were going to do recommendations. It didn't work out, but that was our goal. But eventually, we just found ourselves back in the identity space again. So I think you can fight it, but chances are your expertise, your knowledge, your network are already there. It'll make it simpler. So you might want to figure out a way to bring maybe another passion or another circle into that piece, but don't underestimate how powerful and how valuable the network that you've created, the reputation you've created for yourself, that is so difficult to like cut off and start fresh again. So use that as a building space in some form or another and figure out how can I utilize this in a way and then identify something else. Again, just meeting with people that you've met that you really enjoy working with, sometimes even going after the co-founder first, and then working together to come out with an idea. There's a lot of firms like Antler, Entrepreneur First, they have programs, boot camps, you go for like 8 to 12 weeks, and they will the whole goal is to find a co-founder, and then together you build an idea. So that might be an option as well for anyone debating. Yeah.
Tanis, thank you for the presentation.
You're welcome.
Basically, you spoke about the board of advisors.
Yes, sir.
And my question is, what was your strategy to attract like great people into this board of advisors and make sure like you were working for your investors?
Yeah, we literally chose basically all the C-suites. And we also chose like who was the leader. There was no holding out. We went after the best of the best in our industry, and we educated them with what we're trying to do, and we just waited until we could turn them to our side. So we never settled. We went to the top technology guy who was based out of Japan. We had another technology guy who was out of PayPal. We really, really went after the best because we knew what we were doing. Trulioo at the time was extremely, extremely disruptive. No one had done it before. And we knew that people had to trust us who had just done 10 years in the identity space. So with your advisors, like sky's the limit. Like go to the best of the best that you can get. Reach out to them, share your idea, make sure they get it, and then ask them, and then of course reward them as well, percentage, anywhere between 0 to 2%, 0.5 to 2% is a great sort of number for an advisor. Depends on if they bring their network for you, introductions, but mostly it's about capitalizing on their reputation and their background. Yeah.
Top 3 qualities of a co-founder, what would you say?
Yeah, great question, and it's quite extensive. However, I find that most people often, when they're thinking of a co-founder, they're thinking about a skill set, and I find there's a bunch of other factors that are actually equally more important. I would consider life stage as a really important consideration. If you're fresh out of university or whatnot, you know, recognizing the disadvantages and advantages of your life at that point, you might want to find someone who's even, you know, gone further ahead. You can monopolize on their experience to date or whatnot. Life stage is actually a really, really big one. Values is a massive one. If you haven't sat down and identified your top 5 values are typically identified in like a pyramid situation. You have your next 2, and then maybe 3 more. If you haven't done that, you don't realize how much those 5 things are literally driving how you make decisions in your business and what it is that you do. And at the same time, when I interview founders who have failed in partnerships, they often have this throwaway sentence, and they'll say all the reasons that it failed, I don't know, you know, all these reasons. And then at the end they'll say, well, and ultimately in the end, we just didn't have the same values. And it is shocking how many people said that. So really identifying what drives you and identifying that. And then lastly is not communicating expectations. So really as well, the best co-founder is someone who matches what you're willing to give. So, or understands what you're able to give and is able to complement it. So that means your time commitment, investment, personal investment, those are some really, really important pieces as well. After that, it's going to be logistics building the business anyways, but it's really making sure that the two of you are aligned. You understand all that you're going to do, plans going forward. Is this like a business? Is this a generational business? Or are you trying to sell it in 3 years? That kind of thing. So you really need to identify that you're both on the same page with vision.
Let's take one more question. Are you going to be able to stay after to take more questions in person? Okay, so you choose one more question. There's a lot ahead.
Sorry.
Your talk was the reason why I came here, so thank you very much.
Awesome.
And my question to you is, have you seen a difference between 2 co-founders versus 3 co-founders?
Yeah.
And what is it?
Okay, here's what I would say about co-founder numbers. In the end, it doesn't really matter how many co-founders you have, but the more co-founders you have, the more intentional and tight that communication needs to be. There is a lot more written documents, there are a lot more sit-downs, there is much more a detailed decision-making that needs to happen. So by the time you're adding your 5th or 6th or your 7th co-founder, you need to be extremely involved. 2 is still really important. But I think that that communication level just starts to get, as you go, just gets a little bit more difficult to maintain. So I would say 2 is the best. But again, it doesn't really matter. You just have to make sure you have those parameters in place so that you guys are always on the same page, that your visions are aligned, that you have a transparent and authentic sort of communication position so that you're always on the same page. Otherwise, you're both steering a boat, one's pulling this way, one's pulling that way, and it just doesn't work. So communication is the key. So it doesn't really matter how many, but just the more work you got to do on the partnership.
Give a round of applause.
Yeah, thanks. Thank you.